Welcome to Wednesday. I'm Anthony, he's Ron, and we're about to uncover the MAGA propaganda that is not covered by the mainstream and corporate media. Ron, lots to talk about. Should we start with this new national security advisor? Who's he replacing? Because I've lost track of who's been fired or has resigned from Trump's regime.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, that's the one.
And, remember my adage that you can always apply to every Trump appointment, which is every time he fires somebody, or somebody resigns or whatever, they will always be replaced by someone worse. That is true 100% of the time.
Right. So Kristi Noem, Mark Wayne Mullin, that's kind of how it goes.
The Pam Bondi gets replaced by
Todd Blanche.
Yeah. I mean, it's just every time you replace somebody, you're like, oh, good, that person's gone. And then the next person is worse.
Could I ask you very quickly, though, because I was thinking this morning, I predicted that Todd Blanche would hold this acting attorney general job forever because he's obviously Trump's former criminal defense attorney and is doing good work for Donald Trump. Is there any movement on that? Because as far as I see it, he's pretty much sticking, isn't he?
Well, yeah, he hasn't been nominated officially for the job. He definitely wants it. It depends if you believe some of the reporting. I tend not to believe it, but the reporting is that Trump is now mad at him over this weaponization fund, that Trump is now blaming him for all of this, bungling it, supposedly not clearing all the details with Trump. I find, and Trump is mad that this has sort of made him look bad. I find that hard to believe. I really do. This is just like Trump claiming that he didn't know that Blanche was going to see Ghislaine Maxwell, right?
Yeah.
Trump doesn't know about any of this stuff that he's doing, supposedly. I find that very hard to believe. But I mean, if that's true, if it's true that he actually went ahead and did some of these things with the weaponization fund without going through Trump on the details, then he's definitely going to be fired. But I find that hard to believe, that reporting.
Right. And the weaponization fund, while we're here, we might as well mention it. They're being, is it like 5 states have sued or something about this, trying to get it reversed, and it looks like it's off now.
Well, I don't trust that either. So, it wasn't. The Axios did the story on Monday that said that Trump has decided, after Mike Johnson went to the White House. Mike Johnson went to the White House Monday morning about this because he said, our members are all going nuts. Same thing in the Senate. They're all going crazy. They can't run for re-election, with this out there, you handing out money to J6ers and stuff. And so he said it's going to hold up your reconciliation package. It's going to hold up your defense spending bill. Schumer has all these amendments that he's going to tack on. And so, to make them look bad on weaponization. And it was just going to be a political disaster. Right. Yeah. So there's a story. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get the sense that this could never really have been allowed to go to run, because it's so, as we've discussed previously, there is so much corruption at the heart of this, and it is basically a policy of corruption. So it might get kicked back. But there are rumors that Trump might go back to his lawsuit where he sues the IRS for $10 billion instead.
Well, that's definitely not going to happen. That judge is never going to allow that to get off the ground. So that's just a smokescreen. But I think this story may also be a smokescreen too. I mean, Thune and Mike Johnson were both asked about this on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Saying, is this legit dead? Is this gone? And they both said, yes, we spoke in the White House. They said this is dead. It's not going anywhere. But again, I think that they are just trying to divert attention away from all the legislation, because there's been multiple bills proposed by Democrats and Republicans who said they will support those to block this, to put it into law that this cannot happen and will not happen. And my concern is that, well, Thune and Mike Johnson are saying, oh, this is gone now. This is dead. The White House said they're not going to try to do this anymore. So we can just forget all about this legislation and all these amendments. And I don't think Schumer or Jeffries are going to let them get away with that, because you can't trust them. And I think multiple Democrats have said, we don't trust the White House. We don't believe the White House on this. We're going to go forward with what we intend to do to make sure that this doesn't happen. So I think that that's smart, because I don't believe the White House for a second. They might drop it until all of these spending bills get passed, and then reignite it right back, or reignite it right after the midterms. So we can't leave this hanging out there, and we can't trust the Trump administration on it.
So let's go back to the turnover of staff. The latest news is Trump posts, "I'm appointing the director of the Federal House Housing Finance Agency and chairman of Fannie Mae Freddie Mac, William J. Pulte, to serve as acting director of national intelligence. William has deep experience managing the most sensitive matters in America, the safety and soundness of the markets, and over $10 trillion at Fannie Mae Freddie Mac, a substantial increase from where it was just 12 months ago. During this period, he'll remain director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency and chairman of Fannie Mae Freddie Mac." Congratulations to Director Pulte, President Donald J. Trump. So, as you said, no experience and isn't even giving up the previous role.
This is it's just like another example of like Whitcock, where Trump has grabbed one of these wealthy, inherited Nepo babies. Pulte inherited his grandfather's empire, which is home construction, building empire, Pulte Homes, billionaire. Pulte inherits that in his 20s, so he really never has to work or have a day of hardship in his entire life.
Yeah.
He's done really nothing in his life other than that. He's never joined the military. He's never served in government. He's never been part of the intelligence community. And, so it's similar to Witkoff. They put Witkoff in charge of negotiating, these ongoing wars and trying to resolve them, with zero experience in this area. And now here we are again. This is a position, DNI, that was created in the wake of 9/11. And the reason it was created was because one of the issues that was diagnosed in why 9/11 happened was the fact that you had all these law enforcement and federal intelligence agencies that didn't communicate with each other. They didn't coordinate with each other. They didn't share information. And if they had, we probably would have been able to prevent something like that. So DNI was created in order to coordinate those things across intelligence agencies, make sure they all knew what each other was doing, shared information, all that. So it's really like our most important counterterrorism agency that we have. And so at a time when we're at war with Iran, which sponsors terrorism around the world, has in the past, and at a time when we're hosting the World Cup about to, and many other big events this summer, we're putting the director of national intelligence into the hands of this guy, who has zero experience, no experience whatsoever. So I know that our guys have been up on Capitol Hill asking Republicans and Democrats about this appointment, and they just all seem incredulous. Like, they asked Thune about it. Thune was standing there with Tom Cotton in the hallway. Tom Cotton is chair of the Senate Intel Committee, so that would be the committee that Pulte would go in front of for his confirmation hearing. So they asked Thune, "What do you think about Pulte's nomination?" Thune's like, "I'll have to defer to the Intel chair, Mr. Cotton, here on that one." Cotton, what's your opinion? Cotton, I really don't have anything to say about that. So that's where the Republican leadership is at in the Senate on the Pulte nomination.
It just makes the country less safe. It makes the world less safe. We should probably mention the outgoing director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, she was alleged to have had Russian connections and was entirely compromised as far as we could tell. Do you believe her reason for leaving? We never really discussed that when it happened.
I think her reason for leaving is because she was fired. I mean, her claim is that her husband came down with cancer, right? I don't necessarily dispute that, but the reporting is that is not her reason for leaving. Right. The reporting
and two
is
things can be true.
She was fired. She was fired because of her. I think there was two things that really upset her, but it was her repeated comments on the Iran war. She was clearly opposed to it, 100%. I think what really set off Trump was when she put out the video equating what was happening in Iran to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and she actually put out a video warning that this could lead to a global nuclear war. And I think that was probably the end of Tulsi Gabbard when Trump saw that, which he did see that. And
Right.
all the reporting was he was furious about that. So I think it was just a situation where that was pretty much the beginning of the end for her. I don't think he ever liked her. He excluded her from all national security briefings, situation room
Which
stuff.
is not helpful.
Yeah, she wasn't privy to any of that. So
Yeah.
Another analyst that former CIA agent that I follow on social media who specializes in the Middle East and Israel, he said he really thinks that it's almost like with the nomination of Gabbard and now Pulte, it's almost like Trump doesn't even want to have a DNI. He just wants to eliminate the position by, I mean, look what he said. Pulte is going to continue on in the housing job appointment and do DNI as well at the same time. So it almost shows where he just doesn't even want to have this position at all.
It suggests that both are irrelevant to him. So he brings the realtor to come and do national intelligence just to kind of get that kind of covered off. But at the end of the day, this is a unitary government run. This is Donald Trump.
The only thing that Pulte did in the housing finance job was investigate Democrats for mortgage fraud.
Yeah.
I mean, he referred Jerome Powell, he's not a Democrat, but I mean, the Fed, Trump's enemies.
Yes.
Fed Chair Powell, he did a criminal referral on. He did one on Adam Schiff. He did one on Letitia James. So,
yeah,
I mean, that he's not really there to like help people buy homes, which is what the job is supposed to be. Yeah. He's there to use mortgage applications to prosecute Democrats.
I really hope people can see the pattern here. Because in every government department of the cabinet, if they weren't, they are now operatives for Donald Trump and his unitary government, where it is weaponizing anything that is available to them. And as we discussed last week, whenever anyone goes in for a hearing now, they're coming in with intel about the people that are going to be asking them questions.
Yeah.
And that is tied into this as well. This is not a functioning democracy anymore. That game is over.
Yeah, they're not. At every turn, you see that they have no interest in informing the American public or Congress about anything they're doing. They try to hide everything. I mean, we saw that again with Pete Hegseth issued another executive order on Monday, banning, not executive order, but another Pentagon order, banning the press from the Pentagon press room. And changing it into a classified area so that they're not allowed to go there anymore. Basically, just at this point, first he did the order months ago, excluding them from going in the hallways and other areas of the Pentagon. So they only had to congregate in their press room. Now he just banned them from that. So basically, I'm not sure where you can go, maybe the cafeteria. I'm not sure where you can go as a reporter in the Pentagon anymore. And of course, all the Pentagon reporters are up in arms, including the Newsmax Pentagon reporter was very upset about it today and posted something. So it's not just, mainstream outlets. It's even the right-wing outlets that are upset because they can't cover the military right now.
Zero scrutiny. That's basically what they're looking for. And again, this just plays into the dictatorship that Trump is forming. Let's talk about the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. He's been on the stand on Tuesday, answering questions, being kind of grilled about the war in Iran and about his involvement in negotiations or lack of involvement in negotiations. You watched quite a bit of this. I watched some of it too. He was on the back foot the whole time, wasn't he? And they all have this in common. They talk like the American people are stupid. So they say things that they think everyone is going to believe, but they're so blatantly false.
Yeah, I think what makes it difficult for Rubio is that he is defending Trump positions that he personally has disagreed with his entire career.
Yeah.
We saw that on his questions that he had to defend about Russia, about Iran, about Taiwan. These are positions that he has had strong opposite positions from the Trump administration on his entire career. And now he's having to defend these policies that he personally disagrees with, but now goes along with them. He's adopted them. He's really gone just full MAGA. He's become like Vance, where he has stripped away everything that he used to believe and stand for, and has fully embraced the MAGA party line as his. And he's always been a political opportunist. I've watched him do this his entire career, from when he was in the state legislature to then the Senate, on and on, where I've seen him change positions. He changed on Trump, just like Vance. Him and Vance both ripped Trump in 2016 brutally, and now, they're on his team. There is Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Yeah.
There's two hands. So.
And I think the biggest exposure of his complicity is Trump's desire to go after Cuba, because he's a Cuban immigrant. His family are Cuban immigrants. And the fact that he can overlook that to go and take Cuba, as it said, suggests, it tells you exactly who this guy is.
Well, yeah, he's definitely driving the Cuban policy of Trump. This is something that Rubio wants very badly as his crowning signature achievement as Secretary of State, as a Cuban exile. Is, well, not him, but his parents. Yeah, he was born in the United States. Is to liberate Cuba. Is to have the United States basically take over Cuba, because that's something that the Cuban American community in Miami, which is where Rubio comes from, wants very bad. So that's something that he wants Trump to do. He wants intervention there, just like in Venezuela, and that's why they just indicted Castro. Raul Castro was 95 years old.
Yes,
because they want to do the same thing with him that they did with Maduro.
Yeah, and probably the same thing that they'll do in Greenland, given half a chance. Let's take a look at some of this hearing from Tuesday, and see how Marco Rubio defended himself.
Happening, and it's just unthinkable to me that you are missing high stakes negotiations, or that you're not involved. It's sad.
Senator Rosen, your time's up. But
so let me
Secretary Rubio,
you're 100% inaccurate and 100% wrong. Here's why. Number one, the Vice President of the United States was there, and he wasn't confirmed by us, and he was elected by the American people. Okay, he is the second in line of the presidency of the United States. He was president. Mr. Witkoff is the president's envoy for negotiation for peace deals. Mr. Kushner is a private citizen that serves as an advisor on these functions. They were the team that we sent to Pakistan. I was not at a party. Where I was is next to the president, because in the midst of those negotiations, I was in communications with them. And in fact, I think there is media reporting from that evening on how on multiple occasions I went into a back room, I came back out and spoke to the president and was constantly updating him on that evening.
This is embarrassing, because he was at a UFC fight. She describes it as a party. It was a party of sorts. They seem to be having quite a good time. But there is video of him there. Trump was there. You and I have played that video on this show previously. The fact that he's trying to excuse the fact that he was on duty that night and was next to the president while these high-stakes negotiations were going on, trying to bring peace to the Middle East, is just jokes.
Some members of Congress, some Democrats, understand how to deal with this situation of these people, and some media members do, and others don't. And this was an example of someone who wasn't really prepared. You have to anticipate that even when you present these people with the most obvious things, they are going to lie. They're going to deny it, and they're going to make up a story. So you have to have, it's every trial lawyer, you have to have, when you're cross-examining somebody, every single line of my cross-examinations, I had the extrinsic evidence. I had the collateral evidence to prove my question, the premise of my question. And I had it right there ready. So if the witness ever at any point in time denied what I was asking, the factual premise of the question, I could whip out my proof immediately. Right. And confront them and say, you're lying. And once you do that to someone once or twice, they stop lying, because they continue to be humiliated. But if they think that you don't have it, They'll just go. So they'll just go and say whatever. So in this situation, we know that Rubio was at a UFC fight looking like he had a few cocktails also.
Yes.
And was, high-fiving Trump and hanging out with Trump and all that. So this is when he's claiming that he was having numerous discussions and in close communications with what was happening while he was at the UFC fight. Yes, Vance, Witkoff, and the president's son-in-law were in Pakistan trying to negotiate an end to the Iran war. And he's at a UFC fight. That's the premise of the question. So when he denies, she says it was a party. Again, that gives him a chance to plausibly deny, because he could say, I wasn't at a party. Okay, technically he's right. He was at a UFC fight. So why did she say party? She should have said, you attended a UFC fight, and she should have put up the photo on a screen or had it behind her, showing him looking a little tipsy with Trump hanging out at the fight. But she didn't have those things. So Rubio was able to grandstand and give his little speech there and move on to the next questioning. Again, it's just like 101, questioning 101.
Right.
You got to have this stuff ready to confront these people. Some of them do, and some of them get it. Others don't.
But this keeps happening, and the media do it too. They ask questions as opposed to stating the facts and then creating a new question about the fact. So they would go, were you at a UFC fight when you should have been there? Instead of saying, we know you were at a UFC fight when you should have been there, but what about this? And this is something that I noticed.
And do you think that Witkoff is more qualified than you to negotiate the end to a war?
Yeah, another realtor.
Or Jared Kushner.
Another
Is
realtor.
It more appropriate for Kushner to be there or the Secretary of State? Did we appoint you to attend UFC fights or negotiate the ends to wars?
Yeah.
What did we appoint you to do?
Yeah. It's a shame you and I can't do all the jobs, Ron. If you want something done properly, you might as well do it yourself. Senator Kaine also was talking to him this time about these kind of indiscriminate murders in international waters of these fishing boats. Let's take a look.
I want to ask you about Operation Southern Spear, the operation to strike boats in the Pacific and the Caribbean. That dozens of operations have now killed more than 200 people. Have you been involved as Secretary of State or National Security Advisor in discussion about the targeting criteria that are used to decide which boats we should strike?
No, but not because I've avoided it, but because those are largely legal decisions, right?
But if you haven't been involved in discussion as the National Security Advisor, are you aware of what the targeting criteria are?
Yeah, they go through so every strike has a legal officer on the deck that has to make a determination about whether the call is legal or not. And this is done by the Department of War, the way it's been done in other theaters around the world.
Here's what I want to ask you about. So you're generally aware of the targeting criteria. I'm not allowed. I know what the targeting criteria are because of briefings I've had in this committee and the Armed Services Committee. It's all been in classified. And I'm not allowed to discuss the targeting criteria because they've only been shared and classified. But I don't think I'm prohibited from describing things that aren't targeting criteria. So I'll give you an obvious example. Everyone on the boat is right-handed. That's not a targeting criteria. It would be ridiculous.
Everyone on the boat is what?
Everybody on the boat is right-handed. That's not a targeting criteria. It's obviously not a targeting criteria. It would be improper for it to be a targeting criteria. Here's one that's not so obvious and that surprised me. There's evidence of narcotics on the boat. That is not a targeting criteria. I have been briefed on Southern Spear since the first operation on September 2 and most recently within the last couple of weeks, and I've asked again and again, have the targeting criteria changed? No, they have not. What are their criteria? Here's what they are. I can't describe it here. But the presence of narcotics on the boat has never been a targeting criteria. Would you have any ability to explain? And the administration could have picked that as a targeting criteria. They chose items that were targets, that authorized the use of the U.S. military to sink boats and kill people. But they have not used the presence of narcotics on the boat as one of the targeting criteria. And I would suggest to my colleagues, if you go look at the individual files of all the strikes, and I've looked at the first 46, they are consistent with what I've just said about something that's not on the list of targeting criteria. Why would the administration not include the presence of narcotics in the boat as a targeting criteria in Operation Southern Spear?
As you just outlined, I can't discuss the specifics of the targeting criteria, but I can tell you the one thing that is obvious is that the targeting criteria is not single source. In essence, there are multiple checks.
There are three elements to the targeting criteria.
Right, and all of it informed and infused by intelligence collection. In essence, they have to have true links. I can tell you they do walk away from strikes. There are multiple times that I've been aware. I'm not aware of every strike because it's not reported on a regular basis. It's delegated. Yeah. But there have been strikes that they've walked away from because it doesn't meet the criteria or because there's doubts.
I'm not saying that the strikes that I've reviewed don't meet the targeting criteria, but I'm saying how odd it is, especially since the administration always announced this is against narco traffickers. We've attacked narco traffickers. How odd it is that the presence of narcotics on a boat is not one of the targeting criteria. And I would encourage my colleagues, get the same briefing I've gotten, take a look at the strike files. You'll be as surprised as I am. Here's the second question.
Yeah. Fascinating to see that interplay. I mean, they don't want to go after narco-terrorists. They just want to kill people of color. I mean, as I see it, that's basically what it is. The more they can kill, the better.
Yeah, I mean, we're now over 200 people that have been killed by these strikes. The public has generally stopped paying attention to this, and so has the media. But they announced these, U.S. Southern Command. I try to post them or write about them as often as I can when I see the reports. But yeah, we're up over 200 people, and the frustration is they never, of course, release or explain to the American public or anybody else what proof they have that these are people who are actually transporting drugs. So now we find out from Kane that they don't. That's not required. Like that's not part of their criteria before they blow up a boat. So you would think that one of the criteria is they would have some direct proof or evidence,
right,
that they are transporting drugs on those boats at the time that they blow them up. But we now know, based on what we've just heard today or yesterday, that is not the case. That they're not required to prove that. So basically, what that means is, all they need to do is have some proof that these are drug dealers, that these are drug traffickers, not that they are engaged in trafficking at that particular time, or not that they have drugs at that particular time, but they are in general people that are in the drug business. So I find that pretty shocking myself, and I think obviously Kane did too, that they don't even have to prove that there's drugs on the boat now, according to their own criteria, before they can summarily execute those people. I mean, it's absolutely shocking. These are things that a successive administration or Democrats taking over a Congress, I think, should result in war crimes, investigations, and prosecutions of the people that are involved in organizing and leading this effort.
Yes. Well, you'll find that it'll be other countries that bring those war crimes charges forward sooner. And we've already heard that some of the families of the deceased are looking to sue the Trump administration for this, because, you forget that all of these people have families, and they've come forward and said, this guy was the greatest guy. He was a father. He was a great member of the community. It's so sad that the value of life is minimized to such an extent by these kind of white supremacist American leaders who do not value the lives, I mean, not just of kids in schools, clearly, but of people of color who are either migrate or associated with the U.S. in some way.
I think my last thought on this is I think there's three categories of people here that are involved. I think category one would be people that are knowingly moving large amount of drugs in these boats. That's one group of people.
Right.
Then there's the second group of people that are basically unknowing mules that are, and I've dealt with many hundreds and hundreds of drug trafficking cases in my career. There are a lot of people that are involved who they're just told, I'm going to give you $500 to drive the boat from point A to point B. They don't know what's in the cargo hold. They don't want to know. They're just doing a simple job. They're paid a small amount of money to do it. or they have no clue at all. They're just used as stooges. Then you have the third group of people that are completely innocent, that are just didn't do anything wrong, and they got the wrong people, or they got caught up in the wrong, and they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. So the question is, which of those three groups deserve summary execution by the U.S. military? I mean, I think most people would argue none of them. Regardless. Like even the first category should be arrested and tried with proof presented in courtrooms. But certainly the second and third group of people do not deserve to be killed. And they are. That's happening.
I remember very early on with these strikes, and Trump's kind of excuse was that they released the classified video, don't they? And then they showed kind of white packets floating, and he goes, "There's the proof. We were right to shoot that boat because look at all those drugs float." I mean, there was no proof that they were drugs. They could have been flotation devices. You couldn't even see. It's so
now
so
we know
sad.
Based on that even if they determine that there are no drugs on the boat, they're still allowed to kill the people and blow them up.
Yeah. Let's stay with immigration just for a moment, because Trump on Tuesday posted the weirdest thing on Truth Social regarding immigrants and the seizure of their assets. And I'll read it out. It's quite long, but he said, access to our nation's financial systems must be limited to those who have a legal right to be here and who are engaged in lawful and legitimate commerce, bank accounts being used to enable illegal immigration or to store the welfare received by illegal aliens will be shut down, and funds will ultimately face impoundment and seizure so they can be returned to taxpayers. It is not ludicrous, but profoundly dangerous that any illegal alien can simply present a blue state driver's license or Biden border document and have unrestricted access to the U.S. financial system. This also sends a clear message to the anti-ICE rioters that your violent disruptions are only strengthening our resolve. My executive order will also allow us to stop billions leaving our country in all manner of criminal activity. It has been said this measure we are taking is the most effective means of reversing Biden's border invasion. We shall soon find out. President Donald J. Trump. So, I mean, this is, again, as we were talking about earlier, it kind of just leans into this absolute hatred of anybody who they believe doesn't belong in the United States.
You have to understand, when you look at the wording of this, how draconian and illegal this is. And this is going to result in many new lawsuits and legal challenges. This administration is the make lawyers rich again, the more lawyers are employed during the Trump years as a result of lawsuits being filed and defended than any president in history by far. It's just crazy. But when you really think about it, what he's talking about there is seizing the bank accounts, seizing assets and bank accounts of migrants and people who have pending asylum claims, whatever it is, just going in and grabbing the money out of their bank accounts. So, and he's not just talking about any kind of fraud. He's not talking about traffickers. He's just saying, we're going to grab your stuff. We're going to grab your assets. We're going to grab your bank accounts. And there are people who do get government money who are migrants because let's say their children, are U.S. citizens, or they had a U.S. citizen spouse who was deceased or getting Social Security or whatever the case may be. And what Trump is talking about is cutting off all that stuff and seizing money out of people's bank accounts. When he talks about money going out of the country, we know that a lot of migrant workers send money back home. They come here, they work, and they send a percentage of their income back to the countries that they are from. I know from working with migrants over decades that the vast majority of them do that. They send back, even if they only send back. Well, one of my secretaries was a Venezuelan immigrant, and I remember she would, even though she would just send sometimes only $10, but if that was all that she could afford that particular week to send home to her family, but she would, and she was legal, green card, and everything else. So it's just what Trump is talking about is preventing people from doing that
with their own money.
This was in Project 2025.
Yes.
And it's something that they haven't gone to yet. I think that the reason why they're going to this now at this point in time is Trump has become very frustrated with the deportation efforts and how much it's cost and all the due process involved and court hearings and all of that stuff, and protests and all that. And what they have cooked up here is, to them, a cleaner, quicker, easier way to go after people than, instead of grabbing them on the street or at their place of employment, you just take all their stuff. You just suck the money out of their bank account, and that will force them to leave. So it's absolutely nuts. And obviously there's going to be a lot of legal challenges to this.
There've been, I mean, since Mark Wayne Mullen took over from Kristi Noem, I sense that there's been a kind of very chaotic and forced announcements. I mean, did you read this one about how he wants to stop any aircraft coming in from abroad and landing in sanctuary cities because he's just not going to process people who come in? It's you know, all the airlines are up in arms about it. It's completely insane. It's actually logistically almost impossible to do. And to me, it speaks to the fact that people like Mark Wayne Mullen and these others that we've spoken about have no experience in anything outside their little world. They don't understand about how international trade or international travel works, or aircraft and slots and those businesses. And so they'll make these kind of grand announcements without checking first. It's like blow up a country first and then ask questions afterwards. And that seems to be their kind of how they operate at the moment.
Mullen first brought this up when he was first nominated for the position on Fox, which was back in April. And he brought up this idea of how to deal with, you know, so-called sanctuary cities, you know, which was to, and the definition of sanctuary city is basically somebody who refuses to allow their own local law enforcement agencies to assist or help round up migrants, or in this particular case, the most recent example of what Mullen's talking about is arrest protesters outside detention facilities in New Jersey, is what he's specifically talking about. Yeah. That's why he's reignited and re-brought this up.
That's right, because this was about Newark Airport specifically.
Right. And all the reporting is he has been pushing Trump and Stephen Miller hard to allow him to do this. But you have some of the senators, some of the people on Capitol Hill, and some of the airline executives who are all over this saying, no, this cannot happen. Right. So I think the situation was probably Mark Wayne Mullen against and Stephen Miller against Susie Wiles and Scott Besson and a few other, and the Transportation Secretary Duffy is against this idea as well. But what his idea is not canceling flights. It's actually like more diabolical. He just wants to pull all the customs agents out of the airports, out of the international airports. Yeah. So, I mean, that's something simple for him to do. Just say, all right, the customs office is closed. All the agents are going home. We're not sending them to the airport tomorrow. And that would result in all international travelers not being able to enter the country through that airport. Mm. And then you had, some of these idiots, some idiot Republican representatives were like, and Fox hosts were saying, this is going to be great for us because now all these airlines are going to have to divert international flights to red states, to Republican areas, and this is going to be great for their economies. I mean, it shows you how utterly ridiculous they are, because airlines are not going to do that. No. I mean, think about the cities that you're talking about: LA, San Francisco, Newark, Chicago, Denver, Seattle. I mean, you're going to divert all those flights to what? Texas? I mean,
but they just have no idea about how the way the world works. Right. And this is part of the problem with these people.
That's why you don't put a plumber in charge of DHS, which is what Trump has done.
Exactly. But it also talks to this isolationist attitude about how America is the greatest country and it is the authority, it can do whatever it wants. But the thing is, it operates on the world stage. And when you're dealing with international flights from other countries and other nations who've paid for their slots, where it's very competitive, and so those airlines are going to fight to keep their slots and all this stuff. These things are announced without any planning or analysis, exactly the same as the way Trump chooses to go to war. Yep. And it only feeds the beast with regard to America being seen as a pariah state, but also an embarrassing and untrustworthy ally. And
they don't game out like, okay, what will be the reaction? How will someone respond to us when we do this?
Yeah.
They don't ever perform that step. It's the same thing in the Gulf where, in Iran, where Trump was like, well, we had no idea that Iran was going to attack their neighbors, and bomb their oil and shut down the strait. Nobody knew that they were going to do that. Yes, if you actually brought in experts and intel people and military analysts, they all would have told him that. But he doesn't listen to those people. He listens to people like Pete Hegseth.
The talking of UFC, as we did earlier, this thing that they're building on the grounds of the White House, not only is it the ugliest thing I've ever seen, but there's further destruction of the White House grounds now. And, this is all contributing, part of this 250th anniversary that Trump is planning these events, which clearly nobody is going to attend, but not even attendees. They can't even get artists and acts to even appear at these events. So there's the desecration of the White House. There's the UFC fights that he wants to have there for some God-unknown reason. And then there's the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. It's kind of ironic that Donald Trump is the president for this anniversary, because he's going to screw it up so badly that effectively this celebration is going to be wiped off of the historical map.
If you literally had like any other person who was president, this would be a big deal. This would be something that most of the country would embrace, both parties, and everybody would get excited. It was that way in 1976, the bicentennial. We had all these huge celebrations and parades. If you look at the lineup of bands that played in the U.S. government-sponsored bicentennial celebrations in 1976, it was literally like the top bands in the world played at those festivities. And what is Trump able to get? A bunch of yahoos who they had to lie to, a bunch of has-beens and never was, one-hit wonders that they even had to lie to just to get them to agree, who all backed out with the exception of Vanilla Ice, who I think is still the only person left committed, who proudly told TMZ last night that he's not leaving despite everybody else quitting. But then you have the UFC fight, which is being held on Trump's birthday, on June 14th, his 80th birthday. You look what they've done to the White House grounds. When you put that next to the ballroom construction, it looks like a war zone. They have ripped out and destroyed the grass. Dana White, the UFC president, said that he had to agree to pay $700,000 when this is over to replace the grass. You can see two trees there in front of the fountain to both sides. Those were ripped out of the ground. They have destroyed those trees and taken them out. They've taken out the fountain. They have
forget the reflecting pool.
Destroyed the grounds of the White House, and they already destroyed the Rose Garden. So Trump can put his little umbrella, dinner party, lunch party thing in. So, and all of this with no approval from anybody, no input from anybody. Just, if you want to say, if somebody asks me, like, do you want to give Trump, will you give Trump credit for anything? I'll say he fixed the fountains. There you go. That's the one good thing he's done. He fixed the fountains, and apparently DC residents are happy about that. But in the meantime, he's absolutely destroying the city.
Destroyed it, and the reflecting pool is going to be the icing on the cake. When that isn't ready. It's just so sad because.
By the way, I heard a stat today, which is interesting, from one of the people working on the reflecting pond, and Trump has claimed that part of the reason why he needed to do this was it leaked like thousands of gallons of water every day, he claimed. And I always thought, geez, that sounds like a crazy number for it to leak that much water every day. I wonder if that's legit. Well, I heard one of the guys working on a project today say it leaks about 40 gallons a day. In a pond that size, 40 gallons a day
Big
is
deal.
nothing, you know.
We have to take a quick break, but I want to come back and talk about how Pride Month is not going down very well with the MAGA Republicans, and weirdly Trump's obsession with men. All that and a whole lot more next on Uncovered. You've got weight loss goals, but actually sticking to them, that's where things get tough. Between busy schedules, confusing advice, and plans that just don't last, it can feel like you're spinning your wheels. That's why more people are turning to Weight Loss by Hims. It's a modern, personalized approach designed to help you lose the weight and keep it off. With Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% or more of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite and eat less, so success is within reach. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever GLP-1 pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. Through Hims, everything happens online. You'll connect with a licensed provider who will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is delivered right to your door, no insurance necessary. And it doesn't stop there. Hims makes hitting your goals seamless by offering access to 24/7 messaging with your care team and in-app lifestyle and nutrition support, like recipes, meal plans, fitness videos, sleep content, and more. Even better, with a range of affordable GLP-1 options, Hims makes it simple to find a weight loss approach that fits into your world and your wallet, if eligible. You'll get a treatment plan personalized to you and unlimited dosage changes as needed. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/uncovered to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/uncovered. hims.com/uncovered. Weight Loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information and restrictions, visit hims.com. And you can find links to our sponsors in the description below. So we have the chaos associated with the Freedom to 250 events. We have Pride Month, which the Republicans are not too happy about. Some of the rhetoric I've been hearing now, because it does seem like Trump has given the authority for all Republican leaders, the lawmakers, to be as racist, to be as homophobic, to be as misogynistic as they want to. Like, this is really what the Freedom 250 is all about, isn't it? It's the freedom to be offensive, because Trump gives you license to do that. Let's just talk about the Pride Month events and the activities and the rejection of that, because as far as they're concerned, this comes under woke, and woke went out with Joe Biden.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, they have always hated Pride Month. It's always been a big thing. Honestly, like, Pride Month for me, as someone who does what I do, was always a very annoying month for me, because of how they handle it. In other words, what their playbook is the right wingers I'm talking about, is the operatives. They will target certain Pride events, where they think that controversial stuff is going to happen, and they will try and find, that one stray oddball person who's going to take their clothes off, go full nude, do something crazy, take a sex toy out, and that one individual. You could have 1,000 Pride events that day across the country that are all peace, love, and happiness and joy, but they're going to find that one person, who does something nutty, and they're going to blow that person up all over Fox, Newsmax, social media, and say, this is what's going on out there with Pride Month. We need to stop this. This is un-American. This is un-Christian, that whole thing. And, and it's all about the clicks and the eyeballs and getting people whipped into a frenzy and creating this culture war, because, how do you get people to vote Republican against their own economic self-interest from a policy perspective is this kind of stuff. And, you throw out this and say, this is the Democrats, they're all these freaky, weird people that do crazy stuff. So, this has always been a sore spot for them. I mean, take a look at the one example of the Biden. This is a perfect example. When Biden was president and they had the Pride event at the White House lawn, and you had one person who pulled their top down for their Instagram camera and, sort of did a topless flash, was a trans person. And that still to this day is brought up, because every time you say, I can tell you this on social media, every time you show like what Trump is doing to the White House and how he's desecrating it and how he's, trashing and doing classless things in the White House, they will always post that photo of the one person during the Biden who pulled their top down. And that's how they operate. That's what they do. That's how they weaponize these events, and that event was a beautiful event. There was a lot of positive things, but you just had one person do something dumb. And
but that one person
becomes,
you should be allowed to expose yourself at these events, like, I mean, I don't really think that's the issue.
I'm not big on that being at a formal White House event.
I understand that, but it's the point is that if you are gay in America and you are facing this kind of rhetoric, this kind of bullshit puritanical attitude, which is full of contradiction anyway, because half the people complaining about this stuff are getting up to all sorts in their private time anyway. Then it's a protest, and if you're gonna flash your chest, that's a protest, and you are allowed to do that. So I don't have a problem with that side of it. I have a problem with the hypocrisy of people like Tommy Tuberville, for example. He posted, "Has corporate America not gotten the memo that woke is dead? The only thing we should be celebrating this month is our country's upcoming 250th birthday. But the radical left mob has completely radicalized June for their woke agenda, and countless organizations are still bending the knee. There is only one flag that matters." And then Representative Ogles this is so blatant, posted, "Homosexuality has no place in America. Happy Nuclear Family Month." I mean, wrong.
You see the agenda. Yeah,
you see the agenda.
But you just have to point out how hateful and horrible these people are. And, I think the vast majority of people don't agree with Tuberville or Ogles or any of those, but there is a segment of the population that does. And I think that I think that like pride events and pride parades and stuff should be toned down? No, I don't think that at all. I don't think that they should do that in any way. I think they should push back and continue to stand up for their rights and their ability as individuals to express themselves and all of that. So I think that this is an area where when they say woke is dead, I don't agree. I think woke to me is making a little bit of a comeback right now,
right,
in response to all of this
nonsense. Democrats, in my opinion, if my opinion matters, but should be leaning into the wokeness, and that's where that's ultimately where the future lies. I think is in people's truth. 10 to 15% of the U.S. population are LGBTQ+. That's an awful lot of people. And I mean, but what's going to happen to Juneteenth? What's going to happen to Black History Month? What's going to happen to Martin Luther King Jr.?
They want to eliminate all of that stuff.
All of it is going to go.
So you just can't stop pushing back to what they're doing. But what they're trying to do, there's a more nefarious aspect to this, which is corporations like baseball teams or whatever that do a pride celebration or wear like a pride jersey or put a rainbow flag on their shirts, or whether it's Coca-Cola or the Los Angeles Dodgers, they're going after them, and they're trying to boycott them and cancel them and all of that. So that's the more nefarious, dangerous side to it, right? Is when they're trying to pressure corporations and all that, and you hope that these corporations don't give in to the right-wing mob on that kind of stuff.
Well, some will. Meanwhile, this is part of the reason why Trump can't book any acts for the 250th freedom celebration, because people care. It's always been interesting to me how MAGA Republicans especially are incapable of anything creative. Not a single creative gene in their bodies.
Nope.
making money and ripping people off and fraud and all that stuff, sexual abuse, comes very naturally. But anything creative. And so, they're left with one or two
why
singers.
They can't get anybody to perform at the Kennedy Center, or
Right.
why they can't get musical acts to do their Freedom 250, because
Right.
they don't want to be associated with these people in this toxic movement.
Yep. Tim
Creative
Burchett.
people aren't interested.
Tim Burchett is charged with organizing the Freedom 250. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
And have all these folks come in. There's plenty of acts in Nashville, people that are trying to get on a big stage like this. This is the world stage, be the largest stage in the world. Everybody in the country will be watching this dadgum thing. And let some of those musicians get out and sing a few songs. All we'd have to do is pay for their dadgum airfare, most of them, just to get them up there, and they'd love it. And then, of course, have Kid Rock. Nobody's more patriotic in the rock and roll world than he is, and he's awesome. And then I know you got his number. Heck, I've been with him when he's called you. And then the finale would be cool to have Lee Greenwood come out and sing. He's got a bunch of great songs, but of course the ending would be God Bless the USA, and have all the other acts come out and sing along with him, and maybe they could do a single verse. Kid Rock or John Rich or something could do one of the verses, and I think that would be awesome. Have all those great stars up on stage. And anyway, if y'all got any ideas of some groups that would, from your area, that would be willing to play, how about tagging them in this story, and let's see if we can make this thing happen. So anyway,
This is the most desperate plea video I've ever seen. That for the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, they're just begging for local bands from Nashville to apply, because nobody, Bruce Springsteen, the Boss, not interested. I mean, even the Commodores I saw originally on the bill. It turns out they didn't really know what they'd signed up for. As soon as they realized what it was, nope, we're off.
Well, because there's two things. There's the America 250 and the Freedom 250. So that's what happened. And that video Burchett made, which is an address to Trump and others, which is in response to Trump throwing up his hands and putting out a True Social post saying, we're just going to cancel all musical acts.
Yeah.
After the first round, all quit on him.
Yeah.
He just said, forget it. We're not going to do that. We're not going to forget the musicians. I'm giving up on them. Sort of like what he did with the Kennedy Center.
Yes.
Couldn't get anybody to perform the Kennedy Center.
So then they refurbish it.
So he's trying to do the same thing here to kind of save face. But Burchett and a lot of the MAGA people are like, no, don't do that. That's why he put this video out. He's saying we can get some people.
Yeah.
I know some people. We can get Kid Rock. We can get 83-year-old Lee Greenwood.
Yep.
Come out and sing his song, and we can have a real hootenanny, and what he says, this is the biggest stage in the world. Everybody's going to watch this. No, they're not. No, they're not. It's just going to be like Trump's big parade that he planned, his military parade,
Right.
that he thought the whole country was going to watch this, and there was going to be massive crowds. And what Trump envisioned in his mind was like New York City Victory Europe Day, ticker tape parade with millions of people cheering, crowds. That's what Trump envisioned in his mind was going to happen. And as we know, the military parade was a huge flop and nobody showed up. It's going to be the same thing with this, because when this was first conceived to do a celebration, the 250 years, it was bipartisan. It was passed by Congress. Funding was passed, and it was supposed to involve commissions and lots of different people. There was no politics involved. They wanted to sort of recreate what they did for the bicentennial. But Trump comes in and co-opts that and says, no, we're not doing any of that stuff. I'm taking over. We're not doing America 250. We're doing Freedom 250.
Right.
And I'm in charge. I'm the MC. I'm the master of ceremonies. And I'm going to put this show together. And everybody just ran away from it because nobody wants to be associated with a Trump production.
No.
And so that's why this is going to be a huge flop. I mean, so we have, what do we have left? We have Vanilla Ice, we got the UFC fight, and we got fireworks, where they want to break the Guinness Book of World Records and set off the most fireworks that has ever been set off. I think the record is like 860,000 fireworks, and they're going to apparently break that. So that's going to be their big thing.
don't forget Milli Vanilli, who famously mimed to songs in the 80s.
He backed out on CNN last night. He went on the guy. I think it's Millie. I think Vanilli's dead.
There's only one of them. Yeah.
I think like the Millie guy went on and said he's not doing it. He's out. So
Trump posted on Truth Social using his favorite word, yips, again. He said, I understand artists are getting the yips having to do with their performance on Wednesday. So I'm thinking about bringing number one attraction anywhere in the world, the man who gets much larger audiences than Elvis in his prime and does so without a guitar, the man who loves our country more than anyone else, and the man who some say is the greatest president in history, the GOAT, Donald J. Trump, to take the place of these highly paid third-rate artists and give a major speech rallying the country forward like I have done ever since being president. 2 years ago, the United States was dead. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I don't want so-called artists that get paid far too much money who aren't happy. I only want to be surrounded by happy people, smart people, successful people, and people that know how to win. So by copy of this truth, I am ordering my representatives to look at the feasibility of doing an America is Back rally on Wednesday, Washington, D.C., same time, same location, only great patriots invited. It will be wild and beautiful celebration of America, President Donald J. Trump. I mean, Ron, you couldn't make this up, and there isn't a shred of irony in his post.
the funny thing is he called them after they canceled. He called them all third-rate artists, which is funny because it's the same thing he does when he fires his cabinet people.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he when he appoints them, they're the greatest, they're the smartest, they're the best ever. You know, he sings their praises. Then he fires them, you know, a year later, and they're weak, terrible, horrible, stupid, dumb. And it's the same thing here. If these are third-rate artists who are greedy and want too much money, why did you invite them in the first place? Yeah. You know, it's because they rejected him.
Right.
They are now terrible. And by the way, what they all said the same thing, that they were lied to. They thought what they were agreeing to was the America 250, the nonpartisan, non-political celebrations that were being sponsored and paid for by Congress. And once they found out that it was actually not that, it was a Trump thing, they all pulled out.
Yeah. You put this montage together of Trump talking about how hot and handsome he finds various young men that he encounters over the years, you know, praising their muscles and their body parts. I want to connect this to the MAGA Republican rejection of Pride Month. I think it seems like a suitable time to play it and take a look. Here it is.
Put me some more than you're winning this fucking fight. I'll give you a honor. You look so good. You're too good looking to be a fighter. You are so fun.
When he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. You couldn't find a guy like him. Even his physical features, you know, he's tall, very tall.
No, I'm looking at the legs there. He's this beautiful guy. He's got legs like tree trunks. This is...
Okay, I said, is he a male model or what? He's a handsome guy, like a beautiful guy, and a conservative guy. He said, I love you, sir.
He's a handsome guy, by the way. It's usually not my thing, but he is a good-looking sucker.
And you have this young, handsome captain.
This is the greatest guy. Look how handsome he is.
I once said to one of the pilots, he looked like Central Casting. He looked like Tom Cruise, but maybe better. A little taller and a little stronger. Central Casting, I love him. I think, to me, it looks much more beautiful. You walk down the street, you have three guys that are 6'6". Get up, I want to see this guy.
Versus here, looks good, looks handsome, reasonably. He doesn't look like Jackson. I'd rather look like Jackson. I'll take Jackson any day.
So well and like each other. You sort of remind me a little bit of each other, if you want to know the truth. They're both tall, handsome guys that... Paraguay is here, President. President, thank you very much. Young, handsome guy.
It's always nice to be young and handsome. A running back who I met yesterday, and I want to tell you, he's a handsome guy. I saw him as a young man my first time. You were young and handsome. Now you're older and handsome. That you big, strong people. Your general over there looks like central casting. Look at this guy. Look at the muscles on this guy.
And a couple of other generals that were there. These guys are central casting, like from a movie, except better. They're stronger, bigger, tougher, meaner, and actually better looking in a certain way.
Guns, we got more guys, and every one of them is like central casting, too. Holy shit. I'm looking. They look like Arnold Palmer. They look like Arnold. Can't look better than Arnold. We have very big, strong, good-looking soldiers standing around. And I think this is a guy that was all man. This man was strong and tough, but a very powerful, strong man. He's been in the SEAL business for many years. His father started it. And he said, "Sir, I want to kiss you." I said, "You got to have a little muscle. You got to be strong, like these people. It's like you're like central casting. I'm looking at all these."
Yeah. I mean, that's a great montage, Ron. Excellent work there. I'm sure that took a...
What prompted me to do that was sort of a confluence of events that all happened in a 24-hour time period, which was Tallarico actually started it because, you know, when he got the nomination, when Paxton won the primary and all the Democrats were piling on about Paxton's corruption and all that stuff, they were countered with their culture war stuff, and the RNC chair Gruters was out there, and they were claiming that he was a trans person. Stephen Miller was saying that, and you know, he's feminine and he's probably gay, and they were saying, how come, like the Lindsey Graham stuff, how come we've never seen him with a girl? So you know, they were putting that out there, and then of course at the same time as that was happening, like the same day, Trump had Jackson Dart, who's the tall, good-looking quarterback for the New York Giants, at one of his rallies, and Trump was just gushing about how good-looking he was and how strong he was and how attractive, and I wish I looked like you, and he was going on and on. At the same time, I'm watching Republicans talking about Tallarico's sexuality, and then it made me think of, God, this is something Trump has done for years. Every time he sees a good-looking guy or a strong guy, whether it's at one of the service academies or a speech or wherever, he will just go on and on about how attractive they are. And it's kind of weird and it's kind of strange. And I think the reason is because Trump has always been like a weakling guy and not a tough guy. So he's always talked about these central casting, and we know he picks his cabinet officials also based on looks,
right?
That is a big factor. You have a much better chance of getting appointed to Trump's cabinet if you look good on TV versus if you have a lot of experience or are very intelligent.
But it goes
you look
deeper
good on
than
TV,
that.
You got a good chance of making the Trump cabinet in some way, shape, or form, right? So that sort of prompted me to go back and dig up all those old clips of him talking about how attractive he was. And of course, that's launched a whole bunch of "is Trump gay" rumors on the internet, which I didn't mind causing that mischief either, by the way.
Well, it's no coincidence that he's chosen YMCA as his anthem.
Which he loves interior decorating. He wears a lot of makeup. His favorite band is the Village People. I mean, we could go on and on. There's a lot of
dots
signs.
up, for goodness sake. Yeah, there is in the kind of this kind of strong MAGA Republican gun-toting group. The word for it that I really enjoyed using recently is homosocial. You know, the idea that these homosocials like to be around men, they don't like to be around women. And the muscle flexing, and there was that great video of Mike Pence that time. Do you remember talking to the guy who was sitting up on a tractor or something and was like talking about his muscles and slapped him on the back? And there are these moments where it is easy to kind of blend this extreme toxic masculinity with this desire for men to be around each other. And the guns, is like a metaphor for other things. It's very interesting to me.
It
that
really
this
gets
happens.
under their skin when you point things like that out. And so it's sort of something I like to do just to aggravate them. That
the
video
other thing,
aggravated MAGA quite a bit.
yes.
Yeah.
I've been told by viewers who've written to me previously that this central casting phrase is actually very serious, and it goes far deeper than just a throwaway line, and it's actually to do with eugenics.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Right, and it's the idea that
He brings that up all the time. The genes. Good genes. He'll say that in connection with it. He'll say, "Look at this guy, central casting. He's got good genes."
Right, and it's all to do with the white supremacist. And this idea that men should be strong, have square jaws. Did that with the pilot that time. The Air Force One pilot. That they should be strong and white. We hear that a lot. There was that whole thing with was it Charlie Kirk who talked about if my pilot is black, I don't want to fly with him. There is this rhetoric constantly that only white males who are strong and well built are capable of anything. Meanwhile, they've been screwing things up through history.
And, when I went back and looked at all those clips, and there was a lot more that I could have pulled.
Yeah,
every single person he was praising was a white guy except for one.
Right.
When he mentioned the running back, he was talking about Saquon Barkley for the Eagles. That was the only black man that he, in all of the times that he's praised good-looking, handsome men, it was all white men except for Saquon. One person.
Very, very, very interesting. Okay, finally, I think we should probably not run this episode without talking about this spat between Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. We know that Israel has had this kind of huge offensive on the Lebanon, which has, really kind of upset the peace agreement. Iran is of the opinion that the peace agreement involves not just the Strait of Hormuz and dropping bombs on Iran itself, but also these kind of Gulf nations too. Trump, it seems, doesn't read it like that. According to Marco Rubio, the war is over. According to Trump, peace agreement and peace negotiations are going well. And according to Iran, there are no talks and that everything is off the table. So it's pretty crazy at the moment. But we heard, I think it was Axios that reported that Trump had basically got on the phone with Benjamin Netanyahu and basically screamed at him, claiming that he'd helped keep Netanyahu out of jail. This is a reference to his support during Netanyahu's corruption trial. He said, "You're effing crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your ass. Everybody hates you now. Everybody hates Israel because of this." A second source briefed on the cause said Trump was pissed and at one point yelled at Netanyahu, "What the F are you doing?" So this is, this is not, confirmed. This is just reporting from Axios. But it does suggest that Trump finally might have found his own cojones. He's desperate to get out of this war with Iran. And he realizes now that maybe Netanyahu has basically sold him down the river.
Yeah. So over the years, there's been a lot of these kind of stories of, the American president dressing down whoever it was, Netanyahu, for various things, having disagreements that included Biden and others. And some of these things are propaganda related or for domestic consumption. But I think there's a lot of elements of truth to this for a lot of reasons. Number one, Netanyahu didn't deny that story at all. Axios also has a lot of sources in Israel, as well as the U.S. government. So that's really their primary sources of information, comes from the Israeli government and the U.S. Trump administration. So if this had been untrue, I think you would have had Netanyahu come out and deny this report, but he did not. And it also makes sense because Trump has directly intervened multiple times to get Netanyahu's criminal corruption trial postponed. He's put out multiple True Social posts, threatened the judge, threatened to withhold aid from Israel if they put him on trial. Trump put out a post saying the charges should be dropped because Netanyahu is a war hero.
That's right.
So that's in the report, that Trump basically was like mad at Netanyahu and was pointing those things out. The reason why he was upset is because Trump is trying to get this deal done with Iran. We know that Netanyahu does not want a deal along the lines of what Trump is talking about, which is essentially a surrender deal. And what Netanyahu wants is escalation. He wants the war to be escalated. He wants a ground invasion. He wants regime change. The last thing he wants is for Trump to pull out of this thing and leave Iran in a better position than it was before the war, which is the way that we're heading. So I think there's Netanyahu characterizing the call. That's how that's what he put out after the Axios story was released.
He said, tonight I spoke with President Trump and told him that if Hezbollah does not cease attacking our cities and citizens, Israel will attack terror targets in Beirut. This stance of ours remains unchanged. In parallel, the IDF will continue to operate as planned in southern Lebanon. So he's not taking the bait, is he?
It looks like what was happening was that Trump was trying to enter into a surrender deal where he was giving in on a lot of stuff. The opening of the strait, the taking of the uranium. They was looking for some off ramps on some of that stuff. And he was moving towards Iran's position. And what Netanyahu did is started bombing Beirut, started bombing Lebanon. Yeah. And Trump was incensed over that because the Iranians were immediately like, that's it. They announced, we are walking away from the peace negotiations. As long as Israel continues to attack Lebanon, we're out. And they made it very clear that as much as the Trump administration wants to separate what's happening in Lebanon from the Iran war, Iran is not willing to do that. They have co-joined the two things. They want a peace agreement that covers all of their proxies in the region, not just the domestic Iran.
Yeah.
So they've made that clear repeatedly. So when Netanyahu, I think, intentionally started bombing Lebanon because he was trying to sabotage these talks because he saw where Trump was headed. Trump was headed to a surrender deal that was going to leave Iran in a better position before the war. Netanyahu did not want that to happen and sabotaged it with the bombings. That flew Trump into a rage. Said, you're screwing all this up. You're ruining everything. This is why the whole world hates Israel. I believe all of that. But I also believe that within the next 24 to 48 hours, we're going to have Trump praising Netanyahu and they're going to be friends again. So a lot of this is, doesn't last.
There's a third option, though, which I've been looking at, which is that Netanyahu encouraged Trump to go to war with Iran in the first place.
Right.
To save his own skin, because he knows that this is an unwinnable war that will be raging forever after. And that keeps Netanyahu in his leadership position because he doesn't want to leave, because he knows that he's a wanted criminal as well. And so as long as there is conflict, it enables Netanyahu to be basically protected by war powers. And means that there won't be elections, and means that he's less likely to kind of become a civilian and be hauled off to the Hague or even up in front of Israel's corruption courts.
That's the other conflict. Trump is desperately looking for a way out of this war well in advance of the midterms. His party leaders are pressing him to get out of this war. Europe is, Asia is, and Netanyahu doesn't want the war to end.
No.
And so he's doing everything he can to undermine any sort of peace negotiations. And so that's where the conflict comes in. The question is, how far is Trump going to go here? Is he actually going to break off his long-term relationship with Netanyahu and his 100% support for Israel and back off that relationship? I tend to doubt it, but it's possible.
This is why you have to vet candidates for leadership roles in politics. This is why you can't have people with form as criminals or fraudsters, or this is why people criticize career politicians, but at least career politicians recognize that you need to have a kind of a clean history and no skeletons. And these guys are just caught up in so much stuff that it just compromises their ability to run their nations, and other countries will then seize on those issues and take advantage of them, hold them to ransom. It's a mess.
It's a mess, and as the CEO of Exxon just warned this week, the only thing that's keeping a lid on oil prices and energy prices going absolutely nuts is the strategic oil reserves that have been released by U.S., Europe, and Asian countries, including China, have been drawing down their strategic reserves, and that has kept somewhat of a lid on the oil prices. But all of those are running out. They're lower than they've ever been in all of those different places around the world. And what all the oil analysts say is we got about a month left.
Right.
And then that stuff's gone. And what the Exxon CEO said is oil is going to go from about $100 to $110 a barrel to $150, $160.
Right.
And then you're going to see $7, $8, $9 gas.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the Republicans in the midterms at that point.
Okay. We have to finish, but I'm grateful for the chance. As always, if you want to download the audio podcast to this show, you can do that later tonight. You can rewind, watch it again, comment down below, share the show, check out our sponsors down there as well, and we'll come back next Wednesday with another Uncovered. Thanks a lot, Ron.
All right. See you next week, everyone.